How you doing? All right, we're gonna start. Let's go. I'm going to start this episode a little differently. Usually, I like to launch right into the tale, but I think if I don't provide a little context, there might be some listeners who don't quite understand my point. And so, I'd like you to imagine that you live in a country called the United States. This was me last week. And in the United I had written the next episode of DC Home, and there I was, recording it. The episode featured a great deal of humor. I got into the budding relationship between Daisy and Sean that was taking place in Sean's mind. I even did a pretty sharp Ronald Colman impression for old Herbert. And then I sat down and listened to it. And then I watched Americans who were doubtless taught as children to respect our nation above all else, to respect its history of freedom and democracy, but also to respect the many individuals who gave their all to be free. And I considered the many medical professionals and so many others who are risking their lives, risking the virus, giving their all so that we may be free. What is this freedom that we hear so much talk of these days? I don't believe the word is being used correctly. And I say that because these Americans I watched, Americans in Philly and in Huntington Beach, Americans across the country, and mostly white Americans, the folks who consider themselves the most American, if I can ask you to stop laughing, they were, well, certainly they were ignoring science. Ignoring science, they were behaving as though science was anti-American, as if science was taking away all of their freedoms. They held up signs proclaiming the importance of their freedoms. They carried guns to display the importance of their freedoms, threatened the lives of our public servants over the importance of their freedoms, while proudly denying science, mocking science, denigrating as if they could science. Why? Because of a piece of cloth they were being asked to wear on their face. And because they were being asked to stay home if they couldn't wear that piece of cloth. And that's all. That's it. And I had to ask myself, as I'm sure every American with a conscience was forced to ask themselves, why? They weren't in jail. They weren't being asked to do anything they wouldn't have done for themselves if they had the sense of a small child. Nothing was being taken from them. Nothing was denied them short of a haircut or a party. Why? They talk about their freedoms as if that was the only virtue of American life. They forget that we're also supposed to be the home of the brave. Remember that? And their bravery in standing up for Trump is only cowardice. For real bravery in this fight, you should remember what we're fighting against. Democrats aren't killing Republicans. COVID-19 is. The virus is the enemy against which we need our bravery. The bravery to do what we must to preserve our democracy. The bravery to stand against pathetic dictators. But mostly, the bravery to listen to the facts, the scientific facts of what must be done to stop this virus. Not the opinion of someone whose only interest is money. Sure, it's the virus that's killing us, but Trump, in his eagerness to save face, because he's certainly not going to save our economy, no matter how many lives we sacrifice, is only helping the virus along. And while he and his friends get richer, it's everyone else who suffers. And sure, you can call this a hoax. But consider what that means. That people around the world are in mourning over a hoax. That medical professionals are stretched beyond their limits, begging anyone on any media they can reach to help. You're saying that's a hoax, too? And who benefits from this hoax? The giant mask cartel? Or the stay-at-home Illuminati? Maybe it's the Martians. At this point, any answer would sound foolish. Stay at home. If you must go out, wear a mask. Something so simple has become twisted into the worst conspiracy in history. We know why we're being asked to wear a mask or stay home. Because there's this deadly virus that Trump wants everyone to ignore because it might make him look bad. That's Trump's only motivation. He has put American lives at risk to the tune of over 1.5 million cases and over 90,000 deaths as I wrote this. After the events of 9/11, the Republican Party got America ready for war in days over the death of about 3,000 Americans. Trump has now killed, more than 30 times that. He bragged about being able to kill people with impunity and without consequences, and look what has happened. But we can't focus on Trump because he's there. And we know that he is just as much a disease as COVID-19, possibly more contagious, definitely more lethal, certainly for our democracy. We can't change him until he's in prison, being raped over and over by very large men. That should just about do it. If you think about it, we got not one but two let-them-eat-cake moments out of Trump. The first was when he told us to ingest poison. The second came when he told us to drink bleach. But these Americans who chant their ignorance so proudly and stoke their hatreds and seethe with delight as our nation takes hit after hit after hit. And we know who is doing the hitting. And we know he's lost his mind if he ever had it. And we know he cheated his way into office. And we know his name rhymes with dump. But these Americans are not the kind of Americans we're used to seeing. These were the same folk who cheered Hitler. These were the people who danced in the killing fields. They are Trump's people the way a dog has fleas. They feed off of his hate until they pop. These are not Americans. These are not the children of Jefferson or of Lincoln. They probably don't know very much about either gentleman, short of the fact that their names are on so many things. No. They are the children of the KKK. They are the children of the lynch mobs. They were bred in the House Un-American Activities Committee and gestated inside the Heritage Foundation. They were educated by every cut to our schools and fed with every budget cut to the FDA. The thief who stole our highest office is only their latest surrogate, Dom. Call him what you will, but you better believe they are going to ride him until they can't ride him anymore. And then they are going to take that hate that was fostered in every experience of shame or humiliation or hunger or fear, sins that perhaps a better society would have done more to prevent. And they will give it to the next monster that comes along. No, we are not a perfect society. We were never supposed to be, not with our history. But that's why the preamble to the Constitution made clear that we are working toward that goal. That's what America's about. Not being perfect, but becoming better. It says it in the first sentence. So yes, things will go wrong now and then. But that's no reason to hitch your cart to the nearest dictator. America has gone through tough times before, as I'm sure Joe Biden has and will point out. But it's over if Trump doesn't leave. And cheering him on won't make the virus go away. Encouraging a disease only brings you more disease. Have you seen the Republican Party lately? If you find yourself in agreement with me, I'm afraid to tell you that I don't think it gets any easier. We're in for another year of this virus at least, and we still have 5 months and change until the election. Trump has already started making mail-in ballots impossible by undermining the Postal Service, and he still has nearly half a year to go. I'm afraid we may be in for the fight of our lives. These Americans who are so determined to undermine the cause of making this virus more tolerable are going to become more determined. We too must become more determined. They say our economy is worth more than our lives. I say our democracy is worth more. Because you can buy a new car later, but you can't save democracy later. And that means when it comes time to vote, we need to vote however we possibly can. If they take away the mail-in ballot, we go to the polls. If they remove the polls, we meet them on Pennsylvania Avenue or wherever you can. But that must be our resolve, to fight however we can, when we can, to save our democracy, to save our nation. I'm not saying it'll be easy. I'm not saying you'll never be disappointed again. I'm not saying no one will ever hurt you again. I'm saying that there is a clear threat to our democracy, and his name is Donald Trump. We've known that since the beginning. And I don't really like the idea of a fight, but I also know that Trump is a coward and a bully. All those lessons we learned about standing up to bullies, about how much our nation means to us, about decency, about honor, and common sense and science, and so much else. This is what it comes down to. We need to say no. And when someone says to you that both parties are the same, remember the past few years. Remember the many crimes Trump and his party committed and continue to commit. Remember all the legislation that Democrats have passed to help people, and to save our country that Trump and the Republicans flatly refused. And if you don't know anything about that, or how Mitch McConnell has helped Trump every step of the way in direct contradiction to his oath of office, or of any of that, then please go right now and Google it. Read it for yourself. Read about the last few years. Read about the children in cages. Read about the racism. Read about ICE and the raids on people who committed no crime short of possibly a misdemeanor. Read it all and more, but read. Because I can't feed it to you. Nobody can. But it's crystal clear to anyone who pays attention. The Republicans stopped caring about America at the same time Nixon stepped on that helicopter. They don't care about you. They just don't care. And that's probably the worst part about all of this. In my lifetime, I've seen racists come and go. I've seen conspiracy theorists galore. I've seen crooks like Trump come and go. But I've never seen such an uprising of Americans who hate America. And why? Because some people want others to have opportunity, and enough to eat, and a roof over their heads. And some people just hate this idea so much, I just can't understand it. And I've gone all this way and really haven't told you anything about Sean or Daisy or Sherry or old Herbert, any of them. And if you don't mind, I think I'm not going to share their story at the same time I talk about these Americans against common sense, these Americans against science, these Americans so ready to throw everything away for one stinky orange clown with an inferiority complex and a very small dick. Until next time, be good to yourself. And that means staying home, wearing a mask, being smart. Be kind to others. And that means keeping a safe distance while also allowing others their freedoms and their beliefs. And let's try to make this world a better place, starting with America or whatever nation where you reside.